called Graphic Design Festival Breda, so maybe you could also know it under this name. And now I would like to welcome Dennis Elbers.
Okay, thank you. Wow, you make a lot of noise. Cool, let's see if this works. Okay, well, thank you for the invitation to be here, to LUSTR and to the Czech Center in Rotterdam, who actually wanted to send me over last year, but then some virus came by and, well, it took me a year to get here, but happy to be here. Sorry, just have to take a sip. You know what this is? It's not vodka. Anyone? Yeah, it's just water. And but what is special about water? It's liquid, yeah. Comes from it can come from the air, yeah. Earth, yeah. Anyone? We need it for a living. Like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Like 60% of our body is made of water. 70% of our world is made of water. What happens if you don't drink water? You die. So, when was the last time you had a good conversation about water? Just now. Yeah. So, you know, we take it for granted, but when it's not there, we have a huge, huge problem. And actually, water is like graphic design. You know, it's everywhere. People hardly notice it, but their life depends on it. You know, if there's no graphic design, they die. And like water, it's hardly discussed. So I'm happy that you are here to at least maybe discuss some graphic design stuff. So my name is Dennis. I'm a curatorial entrepreneur. I'm not sure what it is. I made this up, this word. I'm trying to find out what it is to be this. I run 2 organizations in order to find out what a curatorial entrepreneur does. One's called Graphic Matters, the other one's called Blind Walls Gallery. And in this presentation, I'll mainly focus on Graphic Matters. But yeah, feel free to check out Blind Walls Gallery as well. There's a lot of connections. I don't do this by myself. I have a team. This is the team a couple of months ago, and recently there were actually 2 additions to it, so this is already very outdated. But yeah, there's a lot of projects going on, so I'm happy that I'm not doing this all by myself. And over the years that I've been working in this field, I've experienced well, a couple of eye-opening moments, and today I would like to share some of those moments with you. Some of the lessons I've learned, and along the way you will find out more about what it is I do. So one of the first lessons I learned in my life, I think in my professional life, or maybe in my real life as well, is that I believe in naive. And there's often a very negative connotation with naive, but I think, you know, if someone would have known how much work it takes to start a festival like LUSTR, nobody would have done it. So I'm very happy that there's naive people starting festivals and doing shit and making stuff happen. And you must be kind of ignorant when you start. So actually this was my ignorance when I started back in 2008 with the festival. We made these t-shirts, Tokyo, New York, Milan, Breda. That's where we wanted to be. This was our ambition. I found this in sort of a magazine report we made after our first edition. It also had this really nice young photo of me, which I wanted to share with you. You see, I'm still very naive there. Over the years, gained some gray hair. And if I'd known, you know, the amount of work that it would take, the blood, sweat, tears, fights, disappointments, but also the many moments of joy, I still would have done it. But that's because I'm naive, so that's why I believe in naive. And I also really believe in naive artists. This is a work that we made together with Jan Hamstra. Jan Hamstra is a lino cut illustrator from Groningen. So all these prints, they're digitally printed, but the sketches were already made in lino cuts. And he made 16 posters, which took him like 4 months to create. So it was such a beautiful result, but I think also for him, if he would have known how much work it was, he probably not have made it. But it's so fascinating to see someone even sketch in lino cuts and then create this really beautiful poster series. So the second thing is maybe an advice to surround yourself with beauty, you know, just to make it life pleasant and gain inspiration from on a daily basis from your context. So this is actually a photo from my house. I really like to put as many artworks up as I can. And the funny thing is, this is my office. See the resemblance? This is actually my second home. I don't call it office. It's actually the time I spend more hours than in my own house. And here you can even see me working on a very tidy desk. It never happened. And recently we started the gallery in our office space. So, you know, I like to surround myself with things of beauty, but I think other people should. So that's why we started this gallery, and we sell mainly prints by artists that we work with in our projects as well. I really love self-initiated projects. I like it when the designers of projects, they really care for. And I think these kind of projects should actually form the core of their business. You know, not doing just the bullshit jobs for the clients, but doing the things that they love most and care about most. So in our festival, we only show self-initiated projects. Actually, we try to not only show these, but also collaborate with the artists and designers to get these projects to the next level. And brought a little example. A couple of months ago in Torino, we made a show called The Palace of Typographic Masonry, which used to be an imaginary museum by Amsterdam-based designer Richard Niesse, and we turned it into an actual traveling museum, and it will go to Paris next year. Another example of a self-initiated project is this. This happened just when first Corona wave hit us a year and a half ago. Lennarts and de Bruin, which is a design studio from The Hague, they started this open call and they invited designers from all over the world to create a poster to make people wear to stay sane, and also to stay safe. And it was also meant as a sort of heartwarming signal to the people working in the hospitals. But when we saw it, it was just a call for designs on a website rather than a project reaching an audience. So that's when we stepped in. We bought like 300 spots for a zero-size posters, advertising space in the city. You know, all the brands, they didn't advertise because there was a big, huge panic in advertising. So we made a move and put out 12 posters first in 300 spots, so they would actually reach an audience, which was really cool for the participating artists, because then the thing they made for the web suddenly became a physical object in a city. And when our 4 weeks of advertising finished, we thought, you know, let's take it to another level. And we set up pop-up exhibitions. So we, at that time, I think there were about 1,000 entries to this project. Our first selection was 12, and here we, I think, went up to like 40 posters we selected from those 1,000 that we presented out in the streets in rotation. So there was different locations where we put this pop-up for a week. You see some examples of the places that we presented it. And, you know, as everyone was in lockdown, many people were making walks through the city, so they would suddenly encounter such an exhibition, and we got a lot of positive response. Also, a lot of people wanting to get the posters to put them up behind the window or in the hospital they were working, or so we also distributed a lot of posters. This is in near the main square in our city. This is somewhere on the outskirts. This is actually where the city ends, where people run and watch posters. And you can see many people just on their daily stroll encounter the posters, like this kid. It's quite funny. Also, over the years, I've learned that I value attitude over discipline. As you noticed, I mentioned a lot of graphic design, but you've probably seen it's not just graphic design. You know, it's not just typography. It's not just illustration. It's all combined. There's animation as well. So I don't really care about the difference between. We show all kinds of visual communication. And we care a lot about the attitude of the person making it. So the reason why you do the things you do, and the way you do the things you do. So I believe the visual communication have a huge impact on society, and confronting, informing, but also activating people is one of the jobs a designer or illustrator can work on. Well, if you want to make change, you have to make time first. That's what I noticed. When I first got into curating, I actually studied painting and printmaking. I worked as an artist in the early days of my career. Got a bit into curating because we run an artist space in which we also made exhibitions. And then one day I decided, okay, let's move out all the canvas, all the brushes, all the paint. I gave it away to other artists and bought a laptop and made an office from my studio. I had no clients, but I knew I wanted to be a curator. So some of the canvases actually were returned with the painting on it, so it was also a way to start your collection, to stop your own career. Yeah, I just started doing small assignments for art spaces, and then went to set up my own projects. And the second time I noticed that you really have to make time in order to make change is about 5 years ago. Back then we were mainly working with freelance agents to organize the events we did. And every time the event ended, you know, the money was gone, the knowledge was gone, the network was gone, so you could start all the way from scratch again. So I wanted to find a way to keep this together. So we founded an organization, and 5 years ago I was the only person working there, and now there's 12 people working there. And it was really nice to focus on building this organization and doing the thing I love most, working on the graphic matters. Some advice maybe. Find your audience. It won't find you. That's what I notice. You know, just sitting and waiting for someone to enjoy your work, it's not going to happen. So we made a lot of museum, gallery type shows, but I think I love most working in public space. I think the visual communication needs a context to be understood, not a wide space visited by people that woke up and thought, oh, I'm going to go to the museum today, watch some art. You know, they have to walk their dog and they go around the corner and they go like, whoa, what the fuck? You know, that should be that's sort of the response we're after. And I just have some examples. I tried to take this sip, but I'm talking as well. Trying to keep track of time. So some of examples of stuff we do in public space. This is called Flags of Peace. 100 different flag designs from 100 different countries all over the world, based on the theme of peace. It's actually shown in Mexico once, long time ago. It's originated by Trapped in Suburbia, but here we took it to another level and tried to make an impact in the city. We try to mingle in the places where people like to go, like parks. It's easy just to make an addition to the light post and present some cool stuff. Sometimes we make illegal interventions like this. If you have the right key, you can open up any advertising box in any city This is the artist Fermibus. He does this for a living. You know, he just has you only need like one key and one vest. You know, the high-vis vest. You do it during the day, nobody notices. You become invisible with a bright orange jacket. And as I said, I really like to present in places that people don't expect art. So this is the entrance of a parking. This is very busy underground parking. It's already designed by OMA, but we thought we'd make a nice addition. We have a gallery here called the 3-second gallery because it takes like 3 seconds to drive past all the posters. But there's 1 million people doing this every year. And they not just drive there, but they walk back. So they have a lot of attention for the work. And every 3 months we change the exhibition. So this is actually Jan Weidlik doing a poster series on his dog. Or Jeremy Ville doing some community service announcements. So it's always good fun programming here. And sometimes these shows, they surface in pop-up installations. You know, at music festivals, or this is at our favorite skate park. It's a really cool exhibition by a collective called Knetterijs. They're from Groningen as well. And they make nice illustrations and posters. So what I found out is that we're in this together. Like, you know, we try to collaborate a lot with the designers we're working with. But we're doing this for an audience and also to get stakeholders involved. So over the years we've worked on many social issues. We worked on the shortage of housing in the Netherlands. We worked on the way institutions write and design letters that are hard to read for the illiterate. We worked on refugees, the refugee crisis. We worked with a lot with homeless people. And lately we've been doing some projects around the theme of inclusion and diversity. It's a really nice mural by Henning Wagenbert, which was also made into a card deck, which is used for children to discuss diversity. So it's a really nice way to have a mural turn into a playful way of discussing a social issue. What I learned already in the first edition is threats are reversed chances. Like, you know, sometimes shit hits the fan, especially if you're working on social themes in public space. People can take offense about the imagery you're showing or about the subject you're communicating. You know, it happens. And when it happens, you have to be somehow prepared and creative to turn this into an advantage. We did this with this poster. This is back in 2008, so before social media. We made this poster. I'm not sure if you know this guy, but he's a right-wing politician in the Netherlands. He's very controversial. Back then, he had a really intelligent election photograph. And the designers from 75B from Rotterdam, they combined it with H&M logo. And there was only one poster made, and we put it up in our city. And people started calling, because you couldn't tweet to H&M back then, you had to call them. Started calling H&M like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? You're advertising with this really evil dude, and I'm not gonna buy your clothing again. And they were like, what are you talking about? They had no clue, so they called the city, and they wanted to, they actually summoned the city to remove the poster, which they did. And this is where we saw a chance, because I think it's not up to commercial enterprises to censor public space. So we put the poster back. Here you see where we put it back. I'm still fresh there with my sunglasses on in front of all the cameras. But this is the entire Dutch press at the time. So it was in every newspaper that H&M tried to censor public space based on one poster that was within the artistic rules of plagiarism. So it was interesting because, you know, the letters we got from their lawyers were pretty threatening. And if we just had given in, we would not have started this discussion. So, you know, they thought they could handle us, and then they sort of miscalculated, which was nice. So you see some of the articles that were, and the funny thing, on the back there's the Museum for Graphic Design, which was about to open. The next day the Queen was here. So it was brilliant. So what I noticed is, you know, art, design, whatever you want to call it, we do, it sparks emotion. You know, people, they laugh, they cry, they get angry, they get annoyed, they get happy, they get proud, you know, they get aware, they maybe get puzzled, and everything in between. So that's something that we can instigate. So I'm convinced this works better in public than when you do it inside a museum. For instance, this one by Cool Shit, it indeed is an inflatable pink poo emoji. And people were actually queuing up 1.5 hours to get in, where they could eat a brown chocolate ice cream in the same shape with 2 eyes on it. And it was about 5 degrees because this was in winter, you know, so you can make people do anything. Or this installation, which is 2 searchlights that were actually controlled by artificial intelligence that would learn how people would behave on the street. And if you would walk a different path than the most of the people, you would get put in the spotlight. Some people get really angry and started putting up middle fingers and swearing and, you know, felt that like they were caught, while others started dancing because they liked the spotlight, you know? So it's really interesting to see how this works. So what I like to do most is make graphics matter, and, you know, in the end, I want people to understand what it is designers do and how visual communication affects your thoughts and behavior. And at the same time, we want to inspire other designers to become aware of this, because I think they're often working for the client instead of the people. So here's an example. This is another right-wing politician. There's actually 2 in this presentation. He's debating a lot about ignoring the climate change, and he uses a lot of graphs for it, because if there's a graph, it's the truth. You know, this is in Parliament showing graphs. And actually, when you zoom in, you find out they're bogus. Like, you know, there's been alterations to the axis. You know, it's just made to his favor. So we made this. It's a manual for how to read data visualization. This is one of 6 steps. And this one is about checking the sources. So knowing who's behind the information and who's communicating it, because they have an agenda as well. So what's next? I don't know. I'm working on it. We try to keep learning. This is an image taken from our summer school a couple of weeks ago, where we actually took designers to a trash, what you call it, where they gather all the people, all people's rubbish, to make new stuff from it. It was good fun. We do a lot of kids workshops. I really enjoy how they respond to the subjects we're working with. They have fresh eyes. They're not spoiled yet by all the stuff they learn in the later years in school. So it's really nice to work with them. And what I also like to do is make lists of stuff you want to achieve. This is actually a list we made back in 2008, and I'm pretty proud that actually all of this was made happen in the years after. So I have to make a new one. But I think the best thing is just don't forget to have fun. So this should be fun. This is made by a local jeweler that also did the information manual. Rob and Robin. Every now and then we have some talents that we try to help reach a next level in their career. So they do a lot of illustration, but they can't draw. So they trace a lot of imagery, and they use a lot of 3D render software to create the images. And we challenge them to make it move. So this was shown in 200 screens all over the Netherlands, and they got like very many response to it and went viral and stuff, and got all on the blogs, which was good for them. And he got some new clients that have names I can't pronounce. So that's always good, you know. So that was actually the end. You can follow us on these 3 channels. Actually, I made a little mistake, because 3 Second Gallery is soon to be shut down on Instagram, because we're going to do it all on Graphic Matter. So just follow the top 2. Thank you. If there's any questions, now's your chance.
there are any questions, then it will be probably the best if you ask, and I will repeat that for our stream followers. So, are there any questions for Dennis? To the second cue, I make it.
Hello. I'm very curious about a lot of things, but how do you manage, how do you keep the 3-second gallery going? Like, do you have a, it's very like technique, my question. Do you have a, do you talk to the people at the garage, and how is it that you have that space? Do you pay for it, or, because it doesn't say graphic matters anywhere, and there is no name, I think.
Okay, the funny thing is I used to work in the museum for a year, the graphic design museum, so I was parking in this garage every day. I stopped working in the museum because I don't like working for a boss. And I don't like working in a museum either. But I was parking there every day, and I was going through this tunnel, and there was nothing there, while it was such a lovely parking space. So I just gave the municipality a call. They own the parking garage. And the funny thing was that the person in charge of the garage is also a big fan of arts and culture. And actually in every garage in Breda, in every parking, there is a work of art, except for this one. So then we made this deal that we would program it on a yearly basis, and they pay for it. So we get to pay the artist, we get to make the prints, we get paid for doing the organization. So actually everyone that parks here pays a little for these posters. And you couldn't see it on the photos, but there's sort of an introduction poster also there. And every year we do a garage sale. So we sell posters from our archive. They're actually printed on they're not on paper, but on this sort of board. So they're really cool to put up in your own home, and we have many people buying them, or even emailing or sending messages to us like, "There's a new show, can we buy this poster?" So it's really, yeah, that's a big compliment. Like if people complain or if people want to buy stuff, you know, that's what you need. So that's the story for the 3-second gallery. We have 2 minutes for a question.
Do you have any else? And I do. I have one question. If you are working on a new project, do you think about it as about a campaign? Like, I wonder if when you are making up a new project, if you specify a goal of it.
Yeah, we actually need to specify goals because we work a lot with funding from different funding bodies, and they all need some sort of goal, and we need a common goal also to achieve. So it's a lot about media literacy, or showing to young people the impact of imagery, because everyone is so used to it. Or that's a funny thing, like we're very used to advertising in public space, but if there's artwork we go like, whoa. You know, so yeah, that's what we try to work with. So we have a variety of goals depending on who we talk to. Because it's also an objective to help the designers to create a practice out of their personal projects rather than making a website while they hate making a website. So there's many goals that are sort of united in the kind of projects and the way we work. And often when we start a project, I already start thinking about how to promote this. You know, I think making a campaign to the audience is also part of the project itself. It's not something that comes in the end like, oh shit, we have to communicate it, you know, or we have to think about education, but it's all intertwined.
Thank you. So any other questions? No. So thank you very much, Dennis. And I would like to introduce a next guest, who is Maru Aguzzi, the director of Gran Salónu Mexico, agency and festival. And I would, good. I would like to invite you all to the exhibition of Gran Salónu Mexico that is located in the small gallery when you walk through the white gallery behind the art or walk through the cafe. And yes, this is on. So this is Maru Aguzi.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you to LUSTRu for the invitation. So, my name is Maru Aguzi. I do a contemporary illustration fair that is called Gran Salónu Mexico, and I'm actually from Argentina, which is like the end of the world, or the bottom of the world, as you can see. I'm from Buenos Aires, which is the capital city. And I study graphic design at school, at the university. And I knew before finishing the career, I knew that I wanted to do editorial, to work in publishing. So this was my first job. I don't know if you know this magazine. It's from France, actually, but they used to do it also in Buenos Aires. It was the only other country where the magazine happened. And this was my first job. I was, I don't know, 20 maybe. So the magazine was all about music, cinema, and books. And this then became like my life, kind of. And so after 2001, in 2001 there was a big crisis, economic crisis in Argentina. There's many crises, so this was a big one, but there is always a crisis. So in 2003, I arrived in Mexico City, which is this. This is Mexico City, and it's a big city with 25 million people. And I moved there without even knowing the country. I never been, not even on holidays, and I just arrived there. And at, I think, a week after, I had no idea what to do, because going back to Buenos Aires was to do nothing, because there was this big crisis. So after a week in Mexico City, I found a job as a designer to design a guide about Mexico City. Back then it was called DF, so that's why the magazine is called DF. Now they changed the name of the city to Mexico City. And so this was amazing, because I had no idea about Mexico or Mexico City. And then after a week, I was designing this guide about Mexico, like what to do, where to go. And so I was like knowing everything about Mexico. Without knowing nothing, I was knowing everything. And so I started designing this magazine, which became a book. And this editorial company kind of became my house, because I was new to Mexico and they were like my family. And so after a few years, when I left, which was very difficult, they invited me to write about design. I got into the city so much and so deep that then I knew really everything about the city. And they asked me to write this book about design in Mexico City. And so, funny, like my first job, as I told you, was this magazine where everything was about music, books, and cinema. And so, books, check, I work in books. Then I became a DJ. So check, I work in music. Then I was the programmer for a film festival, because just I love movies, and that was kind of it. So check, cinema. So for me, that magazine, my first job was like it was my life. I didn't know at the moment. I was 20, you know, you have no idea who you are, at least for me. And I was very into what I will do later in life, and it was all the things, and this is very important because here, like in the film festival, I was the programmer, but it was like a small team, so I learned how to organize a festival, how to organize things. Same with music, like I'm a DJ, but also Latin America, you kind of have to do everything by yourself because there is no help. So I know how to connect cables now after being a DJ. So this is like a very interesting process for what it came later. And then in 2014, I decided that I wanted more. I didn't want to be just a designer, and I wanted to do something like an event, to organize something, because I knew that I was good like organizing stuff. And so being a designer, like an editorial, I was very used to work with illustrators, of course. In books and magazines, you work a lot with illustrators. So this was 2014, and illustration was kind of, something was about to happen with illustration. And I decided to do Gran Salónu Mexico. I had the name before. It's like a kid, when you have the name and then you have the kid and use the name. So I had the name, I don't know why, Gran Salónu Mexico. And then it became this illustration festival where illustrators and people got together, it was new at the time. And it was very important, mostly for the illustrator, for the community, because it's such a solitary work. You work by yourself in your house, and you don't see anybody really in your work, in your everyday job. So this was very important, to create a community in a city where that is super big, so that's more important. And what I tried to do with Gran Salón was to showcase the work of what was going on at the moment, what is still going on, and to sell it as art. But the big difference is that it's cheaper because it's not called art, but it's art. And the funny thing is that a lot of my illustrators, they are in art fairs, and the prices are crazy. And then you buy the same, not the same, but an artwork from them in Gran Salón, and it's so much cheaper. And that is very interesting. And then I wanted to also show that that there is so many places where illustration can be. Like, it's not just books, which is maybe the thing that that we know the most, but it can be art. It can be in your house. It can be in your office, like your office. And so we created this, and I'm very interested in talking about art collection with this. This is a conversation that we have since day one with the audience. So now people know. Now people ask themselves for a certificate for the piece they buy. So that's a very important job that we did with the years. We also became, this was like a very natural thing to do. We became an agency, and now through the year, Gran Salónu Mexico happens once a year in Mexico City, but now through the year we are an agency that works with illustration and clients, different type of clients. And I don't know, there is something. We also, as LUSTRu, we turn 8 this year, and I don't know, there was something going on, maybe then you can tell us, but there was something going on in 2014 because I know other festivals around the globe that turned 8 this year. So I don't know what it was. Clearly it wasn't like the genius idea that I just had because other people had it. And so for this year, at LUSTRu, we choose 8 illustrators. They all female illustrators, which is very important. I don't want to have the talk like female in what is the female work in this field, because we shouldn't be talking about it. We would just have to look at it. It shouldn't be a conversation, but it is nowadays. But anyways, I choose 8 females because being a female in Latin America is still very difficult. But these illustrations are so powerful, and that is very, I don't have the word, but it's very, I don't know, very lovely to see this in a country and in a continent that is kind of a few steps behind when it comes to women. So this is some of the work that, as you said, you can see it like it's in front of this. And it's more actually to see on the walls. So please visit the exhibition if you have time, if you don't have time. And please ask me a lot of questions if we have time, or maybe we can have the questions in the bar. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maru. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Of course, I have one. You mentioned that you started from a festival, and then you made collectors aware, and you have year-round projects in the agency. So, is there a next step you're considering? Is there some ambition that you dream of?
Actually, I think it's time to not to stop the fair, but to do it maybe twice a year, because I think like we get to a point where we need to slow down a bit now. And then the agency is growing since COVID. It's growing like crazy because I guess that the brands realized that they had to communicate a lot of new things, and illustration is a great way to communicate things. So now I'm thinking about it, actually, if I should be more focused in the agency and leave the fair kind of, not behind, but maybe to slow it down. And then I want to create stuff with illustrators. Can be anything from a mug, which is stupid, but I want to start creating stuff. I don't know what, but I think that can be a way to go, maybe. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I have a question not only for you, but maybe for the three of you. So when you're curating or selecting work for a festival or exhibition, what do you base your decision on? What are you looking for?
Me personally, I look for, it's very difficult to answer this, because they ask me like, what is contemporary? How do you pick contemporary? And there is something there. I don't know how to explain. There is something, when I see the work of the illustrators, I see it, all together, and there is something that speaks contemporary to me. I don't have to like it, actually, at all. But I have to see something that says, okay, this is happening right now, and it's very interesting. And in my case, it's kind of difficult because it's art pieces, because they're pieces by themselves. They don't belong to a text or to a book. You know, they live by themselves. So the message has to be stronger, and yeah, that's the way I do it. I don't know. It's very interesting how you do it.
Yeah, this very much also depends to the project. For instance, in Blindvol's gallery, we create murals based on or inspired by stories that originate at the location the mural is made. So we do a lot of research first, find a place, look at the context, look at the history, and then find the right artist to go with it. So there also the type of wall, the environment, everything plays part. So there's sort of a playing field in which we make the decision. For graphic matters, we often have certain themes we'd like to address, things we see that are current within design and society. So that also points a lot of direction in which we choose. I also often choose work that I maybe personally don't like myself, but it's more about creating the context and showing a variety of angles that you can go in a certain topic. And but also very much considering the medium, like for a 3-second gallery, you know, it's 50 to 100 frames, so it needs to fit in this concept. So I think other than Mo, I very much like to determine sort of a playing field first before we start picking, and that's what I need.
And then just shortly speaking for LUSTR, then we have like two parts of the exhibition program, and one is that people enroll by the open call, and then we have a big jury that is like choosing the exhibitors from the open calls, and they are like publishers, people from newspapers who work with illustration artists, and they know about it, and illustrators themselves. So we have like, we prefer to have more point of views on that. And then there is the second part of the exhibition that always have a topic. And for me personally, this is the most important thing. I really want to have these things really related to the topic from different points of view again. So we try to have it like broad, but at the same time, I really prefer things that speak like in a new form to me, like when I feel like, well, I haven't seen this before, and this is somehow innovative and authentic at the same time, like that I really believe that the person is involved in that, like by heart. So this is my approach. Are there any other questions for Maru or for Dennis as well? Maybe if you forgot to ask something. Yeah, I will. I will just no, but people on stream couldn't buy you beer, so this is just for people here. Send us beer and flowers, please. So, if there are any more, if there are not any more questions, then thank you, Maru. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you all. And the next program will continue again after a short pause. At 6 o'clock, we will start a new block of presentations. These will be presentations of 4 illustrators. Yeah, and that's it. Ještě to přeložím do češtiny, teda pro lidi, kteří se dívají na streamu možná. Teďka dáme zase krátkou pauzičku a v 6 budeme pokračovat prezentacema ilustrátorů. Ještě nás čekají dneska 4 prezentující, takže v 6 se tady zase uvidíme zpátky znovu. Díky moc za pozornost.